We are excited to have you guys join us for how to introduce special needs ministry to your church. I am Carrie Chang, and I'm part of the team here at Nathaniel's Hope. And the other person you just saw come on to the screen there is Marie Cook, and she is our founder and co-founder, not founder and co-founder, you co-founder and executive director here at Nathaniel's Hope. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Marie.
Thanks, Carrie. So we are so happy to have you here with us today. And I'm actually sitting in on my own seminar today, continuing my growth and learning all that. So Carrie and I are in two separate locations here today, but I'm on my lunch break. So happy to join you and be able to talk with you about how to introduce special needs ministry into your church. And I'm kind of passionate about that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you here. Okay, there we go. Here we go. Right, there we go. There we go. All right, we'll go ahead and start over here. So, okay. So today we're going to be talking about how to introduce special needs ministry into your church. And before we begin, I'd like to ask if I could just open up in a word of prayer. Father, we just thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you for all of my friends that have joined here today, God, to learn how to care for and to love and include your special kids, Father, in their ministry. Lord, I pray as we have this conversation today that it would be helpful and that, Lord, that we would see congregations across this country, God, just become better equipped, Lord, to introduce and to minister to kids with special needs, Lord. So I pray that you would just guide our conversation today. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Okay, well, and actually, that actually is the first step is we just prayed. I would just have to say that when you talk about how to introduce special needs ministry into your church, the first thing that you really need to do is to pray. And that's got to be the foundation of everything, because the Lord could open up doors that you couldn't even imagine he could do. So, but a little bit about we're with Nathaniel's Hope. And if you've never heard of us, we celebrate kids with all kinds of special needs or disabilities who we call VIPs. We call them VIPs because they're kids that have value and incredible purpose. And just a little bit about my background and how I kind of got into this. This is Nathaniel Timothy Cook, known as Treasured Gift of God, and my son. And we had the joy and blessing of having him in our lives. He was born with multiple special needs, and we were kind of thrown into the whole world of disability and had him for 4.5 years before he had a change of address and moved to heaven. And after that, my husband and I both felt like it wasn't the end, but the beginning, but we wanted to steward the journey that we were on with our little boy, kind of being thrown into the disability community. And prior to that, I had been on church staff for 10 years. Working with youth, and kind of saw the perspective of being on church staff and then having been a parent and walking that journey, and how could we help churches come alongside families and kind of minister to them in this situation. So a lot of our training is very practical because we know that you're not necessarily special ed teachers or professionals in this field, but don't believe you have to be to minister to this community. So that's a little bit about that. Our definition of VIP kids with value and incredible purpose is very wide. You may have kids that show up that have physical or cognitive, medical, hidden disabilities. The kids that show up and they say, don't they ever discipline those kids because they just have lots of, challenges in the classroom. They may have chronic or life-threatening illnesses, or they may be medically fragile. So the thing about working with kids with special needs, it's not like a cookie cutter, ministry that you could say, here's how you do it. You've got to understand that this community is very broad, and so we got to equip ourselves kind of in that way. And as well, recently we've been kind of looking at the whole area of kids in hard places. Maybe you've seen kids come into your ministries that have trauma, kids from foster care, adoption, mental health issues, and kind of all of these things, some of the things that you deal with in working with these kids kind of manifest in the same way as working with kids with special needs or disabilities, a lot of parallels and similarities. So whatever it is, we want to be equipped to introduce special needs ministry as well as be prepared to minister to this community. So I have a question I wanted to ask you here. What do people think when you say special needs or disability ministry in your church, when you begin to just introduce that topic with, people in your church, what do people say? Do they get nervous? Are they fearful? Do they say, we can't do that? We're not equipped. We're not trained in this, I don't know what the response might be, but everybody has an idea in their head of what this looks like, and they may have fears associated with it or thoughts that I'm just not equipped to do this. And so we want to kind of talk about that today. Oops, let me get this moving over here. So I had already said that the first thing you want to do is pray, but we want to talk about today 3 different ways to introduce special needs ministry to your church. We're going to talk about introducing it to your leadership, introducing it to your congregation, and then introducing it into your ministry itself. So first off, Carrie and I are going to tackle introducing special needs ministry, disability ministry to your leadership. And when you start looking at kind of that topic, and you begin to ask yourself, who do I need to talk to kind of introduce the whole idea of ministering to kids that have disabilities or special needs? You may be on this webinar today, and you may be a decision maker. You may be a children's pastor, and so maybe your superior would be your senior pastor. Maybe you're on here today and you're a parent or you're a volunteer in kids ministry. So maybe your chain of command would be to start with a children's pastor. Sometimes it's a missions pastor, or just however your chain of command is. But in any case, as you begin to recognize the need within your church, you become kind of like the advocate, and you're the one that, is kind of petitioning for these parents and communicating the need of these families. But in order to understand the need of this community, it's not just a matter of these kids are showing up and we got to take care of them. I mean, I know that probably is happening. But if you can take a step back from that and understand the need behind these families and truly understand these families, as you go to whoever your leadership is, or you are in that leadership position, and you begin discussing it and looking at this, you're going to begin to see it kind of through a different lens, because it's not just something that, oh no, these kids are showing up, we have to meet the need, but you're going to begin to understand the needs that these families truly have when they're not with you at church, and it's kind of 24/7 that they live. So I'd like to show you this video. This is not a ministry video. It's not a real conventional video, but it's a video that I recently came across, and it really gripped my heart because it really showed the desperate need of where families are at. And these are the families that are walking into your churches that we're trying to address with our leadership and say, hey, there's a community out here that needs support and needs help. And so you are presenting the need to your leadership. So I want to just go ahead and play this for you. It's a few minutes long, but it's a very compelling piece.
I am in my car parked outside, and I have been crying for about, I don't know, maybe 2 hours now. And I just wanted to talk to you guys about something really quick. So this is an alarm clock. I don't know if you can see it. It's an old-timey alarm clock from IKEA. We had to go to IKEA today because we've moved, and we needed to get some things. And you can go to IKEA on a good day, not during pandemic times, after just moving and with the climate of the way the world is right now and all of the hate and anger, and have a mental breakdown if you take your children to IKEA. But when you do go to an IKEA with your children in the middle of a pandemic, with all of the hate that is going on in this world right now, I think you are bound to have a mental breakdown. And I did, in fact, have a mental breakdown after going to IKEA today. And I'm going to tell you why. Because people are always asking for me to spend some more time talking about autism and talking about having a child with special needs. And so Brian, for those of you who don't know, is on the spectrum. And I love him so much. But that child will ask the same question incessantly until you just feel like you can't physically answer a question again or even remotely. And here he is. He's so sweet. Waved. Yeah, there he is. He's back for this clock. He's back for this clock. Give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. I'll be right out. He's back for this clock. Let me tell you about this clock. So we go into the store and we're wearing masks. We're trying to keep socially distant from other people, trying to keep him going in the right direction of the arrows. He's darting all over the place. I'm trying to keep him close to me because lots of people aren't wearing masks. I start to get really anxious and sweaty and I'm like, please just stay with me. And he's trying to touch everything and he's asking me questions over and over and over and over again. And he sees this clock and it makes this noise, right? He really likes this clock. And so he's holding this clock and he's asking me about this clock and he's asking me about the switches on the back and he's asking me about how it will make noise and he's asking me about how he can set the clock. And then he's asking me if I think the clock is going to work. And then he's asking me when batteries go into the clock, if we're going to be able to make the clock say the right time. And then he's asking me what the buzzer is going to sound like when it goes off. And then he's asking me and he's asking me and he's asking me and he's asking me and he's asking me. And when you have a child that's on the spectrum and they loop like this, we were in IKEA for 3.5 hours. And this is what you hear. And so every parent that has a child with special needs, I need you to know that it is okay to feel like you have lost your ever-loving mind. No matter what's going on, not if you're having a great day and your kids start to do these things, or you're having a really terrible day, or you're in the middle of a pandemic, or you're not, it's hard to raise kids with special needs. It's really, really hard. And you feel so bone tired at the end of it. But you get back up and you purchase the clock, and then you get back to the house and you talk about the clock for another 30 minutes. And then he comes to the car looking for the clock because he doesn't have the clock. But you deal and we'll be okay. But I want all of my parents out there with kids with special needs that are on the spectrum or not or whatever. I feel you here. I feel you. So please know that I am always here for you. And thank you for always being here for me.
So this is, I've never shown this video before, but this is a very compelling cry from a mom. And the reason I'm showing it to you is to understand the need of families that you are trying to advocate for as you're trying to introduce special needs ministry into your church, understanding of this community, how real their needs are. You know, we're asking, our churches to try and minister to this family for 1 hour, an hour and a half to their kids. And these parents live this constantly and constantly. And I think when we really understand the need of these families and we can communicate that to leadership, then it's going to make a big difference in how in maybe how it is received. And you're going to maybe work a little bit harder to figure out a plan and strategy on how to really minister to this group of people. So this is just like one story, but there's so many stories out there. So if you have families within your church that may have a disability, sit down and listen to their story. And then when you hear their story, share their story with leadership and say, this is a real name and a real face, and how do we minister to this community? I know that sometimes churches will also ask the question, who's going to lead the ministry? So maybe you see the need, but then the question is, who's going to lead it? And that's always a challenge to find that. But I would say, don't ask necessarily a parent like this mom that you just saw to lead the ministry, but find people, like look around and find people that can lead the ministry or who can help with the ministry. But that's always a question leadership is going to have, who's going to lead it? And so you have to be able to answer that question as well. If you're bringing it forward, are you willing to take the leadership of that, And then actually kind of considering the impact to the church, and it can have a good impact or a bad or maybe a negative impact. I know, Carrie, you served on church staff for many years, and what did you see when just in your experience?
I mean, my experience, what was very cool is we saw people come out of the woodwork that you would have never thought to would have gotten involved. Um, you always hear, don't judge a book by its cover, but I really learned that by some of the people that stepped forward and became some of the most amazing volunteers and developed relationships with our VIP kiddos during that time. Um, yeah.
So the positive is that people can come out of the woodwork to really maybe that don't even serve in the church right now. But then also, when you bring this to leadership, they may say, well, what are we going to do with all these kids? Like, if we start doing it, I'm going to get bombarded with families that we can't take care of. So those are things that you do have to think carefully for. And, that's why when you think about understanding the need, how far are you willing to go? How far is your leadership willing to go to be committed to take care of this community? But it's not like you open up your doors and you begin to introduce special needs to your church and all of a sudden you have 50 people come. I mean, typically, if you look around your ministries right now, you probably have maybe 1 or 2 or 3, or I don't know, more than that, families there. And you kind of just start with who you have. And but you have to be committed to it. And also understanding the biblical view, as you are presenting to leadership, the biblical view. Why do we do this? Well, Jesus loves all the children, right? He said, let all the children come on to me, not just the kids that, were really well behaved and were, didn't have a cognitive delay but he says all the kids. And so we have to make a way to welcome all of these kids. In Matthew, it says, as you've done it unto the least of these, you've done it unto me. And I don't say, well, for 1 minute that kids with disabilities are any less than any other child, but these kids might need a little bit more support. So those of us who are stronger in the body of Christ need to kind of shore up and kind of come around these families and kind of support them in that. So anyway, so we're kind of talking about number one, you have to begin to introduce it to leadership and help leadership understand why we need to work so hard to include this community within our ministries. And then secondly, we need to introduce this to the congregation. So maybe Carrie, you can talk a little bit about that, what that can look like.
Yeah, so depending on how your church is set up, sometimes you are able to get platform time or to be able to introduce special needs ministry to your church. And if you can, that's awesome. And being able to have a family that can share their story of what it's like. Stories really paint a picture and let others know what families are experiencing. For me, when we started our special needs ministry, I was part of a larger church. So if you're part of a larger church or any churches, maybe there's sometimes a little more red tape to get stuff out there. So we kind of had to go grassroots, and we went through all our adult Sunday school classes, and they let us share for about 5 minutes about this new ministry we were starting, and we were able to help spread the word that way. And we had a meeting set up that they were invited to come and hear more about. And I was just amazed at the people that came to help start this, just because we went grassroots, which you always think the platform time is the best, but getting more of that one-on-one somewhat can help even more so that was something we did, kind of working around the way to get there.
Carrie, you mentioned stories, and I think I have a picture here that I can share with them of a family. So I'm going back and forth here. I know this is kind of, sorry, right here. Here's the family. Can you tell me about this family here?
Yes. So this is one of our families that the Perez family. They were at one of our events recently with our MC there and our Nathaniel guy. But at the church I was at, this mom and her husband were very involved in kids ministry, and they had their oldest there. And then I remember they were dropping off their oldest for VBS, and they had just had their twins, and they were still in the hospital, and they were beginning this journey. And so I've been able to get to know them over time, and they've been great. representatives, but I was asking her about what it meant to be a part of church, how it is for a family that's impacted by disability, and she sent something over. So I just want to read real quick. This is another story from a family and how the church has helped them and impacted them. So she goes on, she starts by saying, having a church family, a church community is very important and necessary for families with VIP kids. Without our church home, we would easily lose hope and not have a place to get renewed strength and healing from all the loss of a typical life with our VIP children. Luckily, my family was a part of a church which already had things and people in place that helped us feel like we belonged and were loved. People with experience to help us feel welcome and who understood our struggles and knew all the information to give us, with the options we needed to be encouraged that we too can continue attending church services, and that people were in place to properly watch and care for Mia and Maya while they attended kids' church. Having Buddy Break in place has also been a fun option to lean on, not just for the kids, but for my husband and I. And our church home was there with support in other much needed ways, with meals at times, and with support in other much needed ways like meals and help with some financial struggles, but most of all, friendships. We have experienced having church members turn into friends and then family, stepping in and filling the gap to us as caregiving parents, as we often found that when medical situations arise within our child's needs that are already above extra needs, we are usually completely worn out mentally, physically, and spiritually, and usually all alone. Most of the time, help is not within easy reach, as families and friends are uncomfortable with our situation and stay away. No matter how much faith we put towards the situation, we can quickly run dry. Getting out of the house with our twins who are in wheelchairs and who need 24-hour care is extremely difficult and can sometimes take hours. Attending multiple appointments weekly and balancing all of life's duties on top of all the medical needs is a strain no one can truly understand unless you experience it firsthand. So planning to attend church weekly isn't easy. It's almost as if attending church is less important to keep the Sunday morning appointment. The church has already helped us and welcomed us, loved and cared for, giving us strength to help us feel connected again and reminded that we are not alone, and always helped making keeping this appointment time fun. This is one appointment we truly hate to miss. If we did, we knew we were missing out. We appreciate having a place to go that is ready to adapt to our needs and give us what we needed most, God's love through their service to us.
So I guess what you're talking about is like when you can tell the story. I mean, I would think if you're introducing special needs ministry into your church and saying these are families we want to help. Again, it's not just kids that are difficult to serve, but this is a family that truly needs hope and needs the community of the body of Christ to come together. And so that came across so powerfully with that. So as we begin to look for people and you're telling the story, another good thing to do is to try and find out who's in your congregation. And I think you've got a survey there, Carrie, to show.
Yes, let me get
perhaps.
I do. So this is something that as we were starting our special needs ministry survey, is something that we could put out to the congregation to see where they were, whether they had a child with a disability, or maybe they worked with those with disabilities, or how they might be connected or not connected, and if they were interested. So a survey is a great way, whether you can hand it out during your church service or send it through email. If you have an e-news bulletin or something you send out to your church. So just, different ways to find out who's out there that you might not already know of.
Right. And now with technology and things too, if your church has e-letters or different things that are out there, or just, different ways of communicating, maybe you can even put a QR code on something and just, ask people questions, QR code things around. You may be able to identify, getting around, like sometimes, smaller churches or medium-sized churches are sometimes easier to communicate with the congregation as opposed to mega churches. And so just being really strategic. But I think as you're talking about introducing special needs ministry into your church, understanding the need behind the desire to do this is going to make such a big difference. And people that engage with kids with disabilities, their lives are transformed forever. You know, I mean, a lot of times we think, well, we're looking for people because we got to fill this hole on a Sunday morning, or we have to fill this hole because we got to make sure these kids are cared for. But we've seen long-lasting relationships, the fruit of really what Jesus, I think, would desire to see happen, where like real relationship and community has formed. And so I'm going back to my screen now. Carrie's a little more smoother in her movement here, but let me go here. I just want to show you a video here. Now, again, I'm sorry that this is kind of a lot of our videos for that we show from Nathaniel's Hope. They're connected to one of our programs, but what I want you to see here is how God called out somebody from a congregation to serve, and just the long-term benefits that could happen as you introduce special needs ministry into your church.
My name is Benjamin Longstaff. In about 2013, I was serving in the children's ministry here at Northland, playing guitar for worship. And there was this one kid who always just was right in the front row, and he always had this huge smile on his face, and he was just rocking out. And my mom approached me and was like, hey, he has special needs and he really would like a buddy. And so I got involved at Nathaniel's Hope, and it started with me bringing a guitar, and I was his buddy, and we would just rock out and just have a good time. And I think that's what really started it.
We got involved with Buddy Break probably close to 10 years ago. When we first heard about Buddy Break, we were a little leery. We live in a city where we don't have family, and we had friends, but they weren't really comfortable and didn't know about disability. So you tend to just kind of, you know, just turn inward, and you know, your social circle just starts to get smaller and smaller a lot of times. We decided to do it, and it really has been one of the best things for Elijah. It was tremendous for our marriage. For Ben to bring Elijah up with him, and for Elijah to lead worship, and for Elijah's dream basically to be fulfilled of performing on stage and singing praises to the Lord has just been an amazing thing for myself and for his dad, for my husband.
Me and Ben always rock out our guitars. Ben is super cool, super hip, and I like his haircut, and that's about it.
Nathaniel's Hope Buddy Break is much more than you can see on the surface. Not only does it, you know, give parents a welcome environment that they can leave their kids in and know that they're going to have this amazing, fun, and carefree time where the kids can just be kids and just really enjoy themselves.
The people who volunteer that have made such a difference in the lives of so many children, of so many parents, we cannot even begin to thank you. Because you love our kids and you give us that time so many times that we need and we don't get at home. And there's not enough words to say how thankful we are for the volunteers who love our kids and give us that break that we so desperately need sometimes. So volunteers, you are amazing, and thank you.
So I really love that story because it just shows the powerful impact. This is a 10-year friendship of these boys. When Ben first started and met Elijah, they were just both like middle schoolers. And here they are 10 years later. We recently saw them, had them actually do music together, ministry together at an event that we hosted. And it was just so beautiful to see how the entry point, you know, became working at the church. They became friends, and how that friendship has continued and made a life, how it's impacted the family forever, the VIP family forever, the special needs family forever, but as well, Ben would say the same thing. My life has been so enriched by this. So, as you're thinking about the different layers again, as you're introducing special needs ministry, it's introducing it to your leadership, introducing it to your congregation, but using those stories and showing the impact, the positive impact that special needs ministry can make. But also then it's like, okay, if you are currently in children's ministry and kids are showing up, it's like, okay, how do I begin to practically introduce this into my ministry as these kids are showing up? And I would say, first of all, you need to have a plan. You know that they're going to come. 1 out of 10 kids under the age of 14 has some type of disability. So they're going to show up at your church eventually. If they're not there yet, they're going to be showing up at your church eventually. And so when they show up, have a plan. When they come, how are you going to welcome them in? If a child shows up that you were not expecting, how are you going to greet them? How do your leaders know how to receive them? That they say, I don't know. We don't take care of kids that have special needs here. I mean, they're all God's kids, right? So how do you welcome them in? Be sure that your church team knows how to direct kids and families, whether it's that first point of people coming in from the parking lot, walking through the church, coming into the first line of introduction, or as people are coming into your children's ministry, make sure that they know how to receive these kids. And one of the ways that, what's the intake process, So right now, what kind of questions are you asking when kids show up that are unexpected to show up? I mean, do you have an intake process? Like, are you asking questions about the child? I mean, Carrie, what are some of the things that could be on a form, of an intake form, just to get some quick information?
A great question to ask is, does your child have an IEP, which with the school system is I always get my words mixed up on this one, but individualized education plan. I think I got that right? And if they answer yes, you know that you want to follow up with that parent, because you're not going to get all the information when they show up necessarily, but you always want to follow up. And you can also have a question on there if there's any disabilities or special needs that you should be aware of. I know, even though we had that question on ours, sometimes it was skipped, but asking that IEP question and a yes or no, that lets you know for sure, and it's an easy question to answer.
So Carrie, why wouldn't parents necessarily want to reveal that their child has a special need? What did you find about that?
They've had to fight in so many places for their child to be able to come in and just be a part, that they just expect it anywhere they go, including the church. I recall having one new family that would show up late, and they would kind of figure out how to sneak their VIP in, and we really had to be proactive to connect with. It was a single dad, and just connect with them and get more information. So, because he was just so used, and one of his biggest things was, like, he said he didn't know what to do. So he didn't have all the answers, and we just, let him know, hey, we're here. We're going to figure it out along with you and see how we can make it work for her and for all the rest of our kiddos we have here.
So, like, that single dad that, kind of comes in and, he doesn't have all the answers, and obviously your volunteers aren't going to have all the answers. But again, by educating your volunteers and having them understand, why are we going to work so hard to allow this dad to bring his child in that we are scared to death and we feel very ill-equipped to minister to, and it's, again, understanding the story, with that. Having a person on standby that you could text or that you can call on if you do have a child that comes in that you weren't prepared to have is a good thing. But again, your whole volunteer team needs to understand. They may be nervous. I mean, you have kids, yes, that come in that can be aggressive, that bite, that hit. I know, Carrie, you've had black eyes before. Maybe not black eyes, blue eyes, maybe. But I mean, those things can happen. But again, we want people to understand why these kids are are welcome here, you know, and part of the welcoming of the process is getting to know the kids. Like, we're afraid of what we don't know. So if we have a child that comes in that's nonverbal, we have a child that comes in and is stemming a lot, and, you know, and they're repeating their repetitive behavior over and over again. We don't understand that. Then we're like, oh, I don't know. But as you spend time with a child and you get to know a child, you know, and you can kind of build a team of people that that can work with the kids, it's going to be a little bit easier. When I talk about building a team, so you may have people in your church that are not work with kids with disabilities all week long, and they don't want to necessarily do it on a Sunday because they do it all week long, but they can be part of a team. They could be part of a group of people that you can consult with, that you can have, you know, get counsel on working with specific kids, but you can't just throw it all on one person. As you're talking about, you know, introducing special needs ministry, it really does take more than one person to work with the situation, to work with these kiddos, you know. And so that's why finding out who's in your congregation, sharing the need. And we have found that when we would introduce special needs ministry into churches, that a lot of times these people have never worked with kids with special needs. I mean, sometimes they had, they were professionals, but they just had a heart, because when they really understood the importance of why we were trying to make a space for these families, and we were going to do everything we can, we were going to move heaven and earth to make sure these families were welcome, and we would accommodate for their kids, then people would come out of the woodwork to kind of volunteer. Meeting with the parent is critical. You know, as we said earlier, you're afraid of what you don't know. So understanding and having your volunteers understand that, hey, we've got a kid with autism. Now, we don't need to be scared of autism. This is what autism is. This is some of the characteristics that go along with autism. And with Johnny in particular, you know, this is some of the things that we need to be aware of, you know, and as you're introducing the ministry into your church, you're also helping educate your team about disability, so that they're not afraid, and they're like, okay, well, we can, you know, we think we can do it. But as you spend time with the kids, you'll be able to learn how to work with them for that. Really getting to know the child is critical. And, you know, and so we think about it, getting to know the child. Notice I'm saying the child, and I'm not saying getting to know all kids with special needs. You know, as God brings in kids one by one, I just want to encourage you, just begin dealing with them one by one. As somebody said in a chat box earlier, if you have one child, you have a special needs ministry, and it's our responsibility to get to know that child and figure out, how do we make accommodations to allow this child to be with us, you know, and maybe it's baby steps. You don't have to have the whole, you know, special needs room or the sensory room, or have all the answers. You just need to know how to care for that child one at a time, and help your volunteers feel equipped, you know. So we got to bring them along the process, but helping them understand about the child is critical. There's entry points too, entry points like respite care. You know, the last video you saw about the volunteer, you know, you heard him refer to about Buddy Break, you know. We help churches start respite care programs, and that's basically teaching people to care for kids for 3 hours, to give caregivers a break. And one of the purposes of that is so that, you know, obviously the kids find a place of community, the caregivers get the much needed break that they need, you know, during that time. But also, not only is it a great missions outreach, but it trains your volunteers, because if you have a few hours in an unstructured setting, by unstructured, I mean, it's not like a Sunday morning and you have everything else going on Sunday morning, and they can actually focus it on a child and figure out, you know, how to get them to communicate, how to, you know, what their language is, you know, whatever it is, things that they enjoy, things that they don't enjoy, trigger points, whatever that might be. If they can do that in a setting that is not, that they have a room to fail, it's going to be so much more successful. You know, other entry points might be Night to Shine. That was just this last weekend. If you guys, anybody participated or heard about Tim Tebow Foundation, they do an incredible job by doing these proms, and it's a great entry point where if you're not comfortable with disability, it's a great way to introduce people to disability. But anyway, it's just a great way to do that. And I'm going to skip that here, but the most important thing is to start with one. You know, whoever God is sending, start with that one. And I want to encourage you, it's okay not to have it all together. You know, Carrie, did you ever feel like you had it all together when you were in your position?
No, just when you do, you realize you don't.
Right, you're always
you think you
learning, and
do.
so every child is so unique. So you are always learning for that. So anyway, again, we just wanted to share a few points with you. Just a few ideas, just so basic, but introducing it to your leadership, introducing the idea of special needs ministry to your congregation, and then some practical things you can do within your own ministry. But just start somewhere. Don't wait for everything to line up. If God has already sent kids your way, then just begin one by one. I would encourage you, even after our session today, maybe you've never talked with that parent, maybe you've never just reached out to get to know about the child a little bit more, and that's your homework assignment, to just contact that family and say, let me hear your story. And I'm to be honest and say, I'm not totally equipped, or I've never worked with a child like Johnny, but I really want to learn. Would you help me learn? Let's do this together, and we can do that. We want to help resource you. We provide all kinds of free things for you. We want to help resource you every month. We've got just these little webinars that come up. We send out tips every week, or every month, sorry, not every week, and not every week. And and Carrie, if they signed up today, they should be on that list.
So since you're registered, you'll now be getting our monthly tips, and then also be invited to future webinars, which I believe next month is going to be about some outreach ideas that will be coming up with certain holidays. So
awesome. And then we have a birthday club. This is free. If you've got any kids with special needs, right now in your church, invite them to be part of our birthday club, and we'll send them a little bear and birthday cards and their birthday, kind of reminding kids that they're special and they're not forgotten, that they're loved. We have a Hall of Hope. It's a place where we remember kids who've gone to heaven, and we send cards to families on what would have been the child's birthday and homegoing day. We're rolling out a new program called Nathaniel's Neighbor, where we're teaching and encouraging churches to give help and bring hope to families. You heard 2 stories today that were pretty powerful. So how can we go deeper as a church to be Jesus with skin on to these families like that? And we've got a book called Hope Lives. In fact, I think, Carrie, you're going to kind of give that away today,
yes,
right?
I will be here in a few minutes.
Okay, perfect. And so that it's kind of Nathaniel's story told from his perspective, to help people understand what it's like, what a journey's like for a family with special needs, as well as giving some pointers on what you can do to walk alongside a family. And anyway, my husband and I wrote that after our son went to heaven. And anyway, we got all kinds of things. If you'd like a magnet, we'll send you a magnet to represent kids with special needs. But but our big thing is that we want to teach you how to give parents a break. I can hear you guys all singing that Kit Kat song, give me a break, right? And so we want to just remember that our families do need a break. And so we help churches get that break through our Buddy Break program. I'm going to pass that to you, Carrie.
Okay. So yeah, we do have a, if you're interested, and we'll send you some more information too. We do have a Buddy Break leadership training coming up on February 25th. And we would love to help you join. We have a couple different ways, and we'll send you some information on that. It's a in-depth 6-hour training on how to lead this respite ministry outreach. So we wanted to open it up for some Q&As. I saw some already coming through, and then we'll do a couple giveaways. But if you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat now. Let me open this up, and we'll go ahead and kind of start going over some that already went through.
How do you approach parents who have a child who think that is acting normal, but we may recognize it's not, or parents who not let us know their child has a disability? Yeah, that's a hard one, because it's not our place in ministry to diagnose kids, but, I think a way to approach it is to kind of say, hey, I've noticed that Susie kind of has this behavior, is that something that you've seen at home? It's not something that is a little bit different than other kids, like you don't ever want to say, I think your child has autism, but you want to say, hey, maybe it's hard for them to communicate, but just ask questions, that may lead the parent to let them know that, we're just seeing some behaviors. Do they display this at school? and then oftentimes, the other part of this, parents do not let us know their child has a disability. Sometimes they don't want to do that because they want their kid to be treated like everybody else. And they are afraid too that, number one, their child may not be welcome, which is why we want to let them know every child is welcome at our church. But also they may, so if you make it easy for them to let them tell you, that their child has a special need, then they don't have to kind of hold it back if they know that they're welcome. So how can you communicate that kids of all abilities are welcome at the church? Did I answer that? Okay.
So I see another question asking about getting some of the things that we shared today. So some of those resources like the survey are part of our Buddy Break kit. So our church partners that are with us, they get access to all kinds of things like
And
that.
more.
And more. There's a ton of stuff that we've developed for our church partners. So if you're interested in doing that, let me know and we can go ahead and get you some more information on that. As far as the videos too, a lot of the videos shared today, well, one of them, I think we were going to do more, but we have a lot of videos on our YouTube channel, our Nathaniel's Hope YouTube channel, with family perspectives, VIP family perspectives, pastor perspectives. So you can go ahead and check those out, and they might be something you could use to share. And we're always adding new videos and resources like that on there.
I see Amanda's asking here that they've struggled to find curriculum and that works for our population. Any suggestions for Bible curriculum to use at church? Well, first of all, I want to just say that you can use any curriculum within your ministry. So if you have a curriculum that you're using for all children, what I would recommend is that you find a special ed teacher, that's the best, or a therapist or somebody that works with kids with special needs, but a special ed teacher would be best, and have them sit down with you and say, here's my curriculum. And here's the child I'm trying to serve. What suggestions do you have? What adaptations can I make to these lesson plans that will be helpful to be able to minister to the child? That would be one. There are some curriculums that are out there. Lifeway has some specific curriculum for kids with special needs. Heart Shaper is another one that's out there. You can Google those and find them. That might be some specific curriculums. Champions Club has curriculum for Sunday morning. So these are some places that you can look. But honestly, you can use any curriculum if you could just get the support. Again, find those professional people and just say, hey, would you sit down with me once a month or sit down with me quarterly? And can we just kind of look at this and just give me some ideas of things I can do to make these lesson plans relatable to the child I'm trying to minister to?
Perfect. All right. If there are any other questions, go ahead and put those in the chat now. If you have, I did see something come up, but if you, beyond this, have questions come up, you thought of, feel free to email us at buddybreak@nathanielshope.org, and we would love to help you. So Julie's asking, I am currently using Chirp with my involved child. Oh, so you're replying to the curriculum one. Using Chirp with my involved child. Sometimes I adapt the typical curriculum if the child is able to participate mainstream. Great. Awesome.
That's great, Julie. So, hey, we're here for you guys. So if we can ever help you, reach out to us, as Carrie said. And, and I know I don't want to make this into a commercial, but honestly, respite care is a great way to introduce your church into ministry. I can't tell you the number of churches that have started with a respite program and that kind of opened up the door for ministry on Sunday mornings and beyond, because it's just a great way to introduce your congregation to the need, and to build those relationships with the kids and families, and then get the hands-on experience, and then the volunteers fall in love with the kids and they want to serve on Sunday mornings. Like they want to be the buddy and to be there. So it's a great way that works there. So you can join us.
It brings VIP families in that might never come to your church otherwise. So.
Right. And these families, the stories that you heard are very real. They're not just exclusive to those stories that you heard, but it's a repetitive thing that we hear over and over again. So thank you for caring. Obviously, you're on this webinar because you do care and you want to know more. So anything we can do to help you, please reach out to us. We don't charge anything to talk with you and to help you, because we want to see you succeed in reaching this community. So thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and give away this Hope Lives book right here. So
Great book.
it is. It's a great, encouraging read. Real quick, oh, I see a couple more coming through. So Don asked, do you have a list of churches that have Buddy Break? Yes, Don, if you go onto our website, nathanielshope.org, under our programs, there is a place for Buddy Break locations, and you can see that Michelle's asking, is the respite care monthly? Does it take place separate from other church programming? We really encourage as much as possible for churches to do it monthly. It's great for the families, but also we've seen creates habit or a pattern for your volunteers too, that they become more regular. When we've seen churches do it less than that, it's really hard for them to get volunteers because it's not a regular thing. But we can get you more information on that. Allison's, our church is planning our first respite care in May. Can I get suggestions? If you would like, you're more than welcome. We have our Buddy Break basic leadership training coming up on February 25th that we really do in-depth dive onto leading this ministry. So we have a couple options that you can join if you'd like. So, and we'll send you information on that.
I'll just put this on here on the thing there that people can go there.
There we go, buddybreak.org. So, all right, so let me go ahead and pull this up. And like I said, if you have other questions, you can email buddybreak@nathanielshope.org. So I was putting names in I have a little wheel.
This is really, she really does have a wheel. It's not like she's just picking a name out. It's a little wheel that goes around. It's kind of cool.
I was putting names, so hopefully I get everybody in. I did it early on, so I'm going to go ahead and spin it for the Hope Lives book. So here we go. Let's see. This is a really great book with and really easy read. And
Allison.
So let me write that down so I remember. And Allison, if the address you put on your registration is good to send it to, we'll send that to there. All right. And we are going to also, let me stop this share for just a second, give away a
grand prize.
A grand prize. I'm going to update my stuff right here. There we go. So we have a $49 option for BLT. We're going to give the Buddy Break basic leadership training. We're going to give that $49 option away for our upcoming BLT. So let me go ahead and get this up again, and I'll share this wheel. So here we go. We're going to see who gets that.
Yay!
Renee, are you still here? If you are, let us know in the chat and we'll get you connected and give you information on joining us. So, yep. So thank you all so much for joining us today and for caring about VIPs in your church and community. And awesome, Lene. And like I said, and Marie said, if you have any questions, if there's anything we can help you with, please let us know. And we'll send you some more information about our upcoming Buddy Break basic leadership training in case you're interested as well.
And I also want to say, if you didn't, I mean, only one person got the book, Allison, but if you're interested, can we give them a special price for the book today if they want to order it online?
Yes, I'll be sending you a follow-up email. So I'll send you a coupon code in there. The book is usually $15. We'll send you a coupon code to get $5 off, so you can get it for $10. Great book. If you are interested in a bulk order, we can talk about that too, because it's a great book
For your
for
whole
VIP
church,
families.
for your whole
For your whole
church.
church, yeah. So let me know and we can get you set up with that as well. But all right, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us
you.
today. And we'll be in touch soon. But if you need something before we're in touch with you, please let us know. All right. Have a great day. Bye-bye.